Sequoia Blue. How are you?
I am doing great. I'm grateful to be alive to see another day.
Fantastic. I appreciate you coming on and sharing your story with the creative community.
Oh, yes, I'm always here to share my story and give a different perspective because it's so much going on with the art industry and music and just it's just a lot to discuss.
Yeah, definitely. Let me give the audience a brief intro for you here so they'll kind of get a feel for who you are and what you have going on. You are the creator of a signature sound called abstract soul. It's a genre
Mhm.
blending uh, format where you fuse the heart of R&B, groove of funk, the depth of soul, and the edge of rock into a distinct, emotionally moving musical style. You're a prolific author of 4 books spanning multiple genres, including romance, thriller, a children's tale, and showcasing your versatility across audience and tone. You're an entrepreneur behind the Dating Assassins card game, an innovator and entrepreneurial spirit, having launched the unique dating game aimed at helping people explore and deepen interpersonal connectedness. You're a voiceover artist as well as a podcast host. You have a dynamic voice and engaging podcast personality, bringing warmth and authenticity to projects across audio formats. You're also an accomplished IT analyst with creative technical fusion. So you're balancing a thriving career in IT, specializing as an IT analyst, with your artistic passions, effectively bridging technology and creativity. And you often described as a visionary technologist and modern day Renaissance woman. That's a quite of a contrast of careers in one field and also in another.
Yeah. It's really unexpected. I mean, especially tech. I never ever would think that I would have gotten into the tech industry. Ever. That was never on my ticket. It was always music or anything within the arts, but
Yeah.
never tech came out of nowhere.
All right. We'll get into that in a little bit, but let's go way back in time just a bit and
Mhm.
start off, like I said, with my only structured question, and that is, where were you
Mhm.
born and what was life like as a kid for Sequoia?
I was born in Middletown, Connecticut, and it's sort of like a blur when I was a kid. But I grew up in Virginia, so I grew up in Hampton, Virginia, and life was it was pretty lonely because I didn't really have like a lot of friends and stuff. I was kind of like a lone wolf and just trying to figure this thing out called school. I think school was just not. I didn't like school. I didn't want to pay attention, so I would draw doll babies and stuff and be all off track and stuff because I just didn't. I just it just didn't see the value. I didn't have the right teachers. So it was a tough time growing up. I think some people say I want to be young again, and I just say I want to just stay the age I am. I don't want to go back into trying to go through school again. I don't want to do that, especially now with social media and stuff. But that's how it
Right.
was for me growing up.
Okay. And what type of work did your parents do at that point in time?
My mom was in school to be a nurse at the time. So she was a CCNA at that time. And
All
so
right.
she was in school to be a nurse. And then my dad, well, he wasn't in the picture, but my mom was in school to be a nurse. And she eventually did become a nurse practitioner. But watching her go through what she had to go through with me and raising me and stuff in her 20s with a kid, I'm the only child. It was tough. I learned grit. I learned how you can go through something, even if you're by yourself. And raise a child. It was a lot.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine. Were
Yeah.
grandparents in the picture at all for you at that point in time?
Well, my dad's mom was, and she passed away when I was like 20, 22 years old. But she
Okay.
was like, I was really close to her. I mean, she's the one that told me to pursue music, told me to do modeling and all types of stuff. I never really was into modeling, but I did want to do music and stuff
Right.
like that. And she inspired me because at that time it was like, especially back in the 90s and 2000, I don't know, like all the time blend in, but everybody's like, be a lawyer, be a doctor, do this and all this and that. But she was open to me saying I want to do music, and she saw that I had some talent, even when I wasn't the best. I mean, even though that's perspective, but
Yeah.
at the time, I was like growing and trying to understand music because I didn't know music is one thing, but later on I find out the music industry is another thing, business is another thing. But at that time, it was just only, oh, I just need to be the best so I can get into this music because school wasn't wasn't my strong suit, or at least I thought it wasn't at the time. I
Right.
wasn't trying. But but yeah, she was just like home to me. She just really, especially my mom was at school and stuff, my grandma would make me some food and she would take care of me and stuff. And she was in Richmond, Virginia, so that's why we were going back and forth to her. So I really do
Okay.
miss her. It's sad.
I imagine. I can imagine. I've found that across quite a few stories with this podcast that the grandparents have a tendency to be the ones that are that buffer between the parents having to
Hmm.
work or do whatever they need to do to make sure
Yep.
the home life is supported. But the grandparents always come in and have a little bit more influence on that love and care aspect that may not always be there or
Hmm.
be able to be expressed from the parents as the kids are young. Very
Hmm.
interesting.
Yeah,
Did
that's
you have
true.
any did you have any musical inspirations within the family at all that were leading you in that direction, or was it just
I
radio to be
I didn't. It was just radio. It was just I don't know. It was just like listening to it was the 90s, so D'Angelo and then learning about Nina Simone and just listening to all types of music. And at the time you had the what was it not TMZ, but back then they used to play the music videos all the time. Like it was a thing. We cherished it back then. And so you would
right?
see so many different type of artists and I just became connected to it. Before I even knew you can make money with it, I was just like obsessed. Oh, let me listen to this. Let me try to learn this dance move because it was just like exciting to me. It wasn't humdrum. Like I've seen adults work so much around and they just seem sad when they get off work. But when you see music artists, they seem so happy and they're living this life. You think that they're, living, and then you see the ones that are passionate, you see the passion and they're excited to wake up in the morning. I said, I want that. So that's how I got into it.
Okay, okay. Going to school, you said it really wasn't the thing for you, but did you have
Mm-mm.
any friendships that you made in elementary school that helped you
Mm.
at least enjoy some part of elementary?
Elementary was horrible. I would say when I got to my performing arts high school and I met some people there because everybody was trying to be. It was performing arts high school. I didn't think I was going to get into it. Had to get accepted, which I was a C student in middle school, so the fact that
Okay,
I got accepted was a big deal to me for Woodside High School Performing Arts, and so you kind of connected with like music talents there and stuff, and other talents they had because they had so many different things you can do there, and I think that was the time I started connecting with people somewhat, but I think the biggest connection was when my mom had a nursing contract in California. I was in 11th grade. I went to Fontana High School, and they still had music arts and stuff too. They were similar, but it wasn't a performing arts high school. And I
okay,
remember I met this young lady, this girl, well, and she was just inspiring to me. I was so depressed because I thought I wasn't going to be a singer. I thought I was going to just be a broke person because I didn't think I could do anything else. And I met her and she inspired me to write my first song, Chocolate Man. And she just pushed me. She wouldn't let me let up. She wouldn't let me be sad. And she was going through her own stuff, her worse stuff than me. Her mother was on, I don't know, her mom was sick and I don't know if she was on drugs or what, but she barely, she would ask me for sugar all the time. She really didn't have a lot, but she still pushed me to do music and stuff. And I was like, and I lost contact with her because back then, there was no cell phones or, our cell phone was just coming out. I didn't have any, it
yeah,
was just, there was no MySpace. So I lost contact with her, but she was somebody in my life that just pushed me. And if I had not met her, Chocolate Man would have never came out. I would have never written it because I would have just been like, oh, I can't do this. And I'd just be depressed. But she helped me with that. And so that's somebody that I think changed my life towards the end of high school, and made it better. So that's one
okay,
person I remember.
got you. When you get this opportunity to go to the performing arts school, was it because of the interest of maybe a teacher or a mentor that opened this up to you and presented this? What was the
What
pivot
was
point for there?
I think it was like I think at the time I used to watch watch a lot of documentaries and I saw, was Tupac went to performing arts high school and then there were some other people I've seen. I said this might lead me to Juilliard. I didn't know, I thought because
Right,
you
right.
see, you see some people go to performing arts high school, then they go to Juilliard or something like that. And I said, well, maybe this will stand out. Maybe I can do something. So that's what happened. And then I started I don't know if I Googled or someone else told me. I can't even remember. But I remember finding out about Woodside High School Performing Arts because that wasn't the school I was supposed to go to. I was supposed to go to another school. And so then I said, okay, I'm applied. It was another girl that was like, I don't even know what talent she had, but she just wanted to go to Performing Arts High School. And I remember I used to go to her house and stuff like that. But we weren't, it was weird because we weren't close, but we just, I guess, leaned on each other in some way, but we weren't friends. I don't know how to explain it. But she was applying to Woodside School of Performing Arts, and I said, "Well, I'm gonna apply too." And that's what happened. Somehow I think she found out first and then told me, and she
Got you.
knew I sing, but it was just crazy. So that's how I applied.
Right. Okay. And was that in Virginia?
Yes, that was in Newport News at that time. So I went to
Newport News.
Woodside School of
Okay.
Performing Arts, Newport
Right on.
News.
Gotcha. I've got some good friends that are in Suffolk,
Oh,
and
yes, I've been to Suffolk a few times.
yeah, one of my college buddies lives in Suffolk, and he's been there for his entire life. So that's a very pretty area. I've been there a time or two.
Oh, yes, Virginia is beautiful, but it's very serious there. I wouldn't live there again.
Yeah, yeah. When the move to California took place, was that something that happened because of your mom's work, or was that just a decision based on what was going on in
Um, well, it was my mom's work. So she had a travel nursing contract. And at that time, she was in a new
Virginia?
relationship. So she went to Fontana, California I think she did like a 6 month contract. And after that, we went back to, actually, after that, we moved to Georgia. So I've been all over the place, but we moved to Georgia after that. So I finished my senior year at Dutchtown High School, which,
Okay,
but also had they cherished the arts. So I was still able to finish advanced choir and advanced drama there. So I still was able to complete my arts. I earned a trophy and everything, our choir. But yeah, it was that I didn't even want to go back to. I didn't even want to go back to Georgia. I didn't want to go to Georgia at first because it was like I liked California because I felt like I fit in there more. Like everybody was
okay,
nice to me, and I
yeah,
thought that I fit in there. And then the schoolwork was easier. I was like, this is so easy. I mean, Virginia was hard, and I was scared to
yeah,
go to Georgia because I said, well, Georgia might be like Virginia. I want to stay in California, but I was a kid. I couldn't stay there by myself. So when her
right,
contract was up, we had to move to Georgia.
okay,
And so I was like, dang. But I think I still like Dutchtown, like that final year because I was able to meet a great chorus teacher and he taught me a lot about music, or he taught all of us, but I took it in deeply because he was really good at it. And so I think that final year was meant to happen at Dutchtown, you know.
okay,
Even though I think I would have graduated with all A's if I graduated from California, I would have been like, I would
right,
have probably been able to go to UCLA straight up, because it was so easy to work was so easy.
yeah. With that person that was that instructor that's giving you the accolades that you're good at what you're doing and you're trying to do, how did that impact you in terms of some confidence to move forward with what you
Mm.
truly wanted to do?
It still didn't give me any confidence because I felt like he was just trying to motivate the class. Like he didn't pull me to the side and was like, "Hey, Sequoia, you're like so good, and you need to do that." That didn't happen. It was like this motivation for the whole class, the whole choir, and so I still
Okay,
didn't have the confidence to do anything. I still didn't have it.
gotcha. And then with your mom doing the work in Georgia at that time, how long was the contract for being in Georgia?
That was 6 months, so it went by so
Another
fast, especially a place where, you didn't want to leave, but it went by quick. And she did want to move there, but her husband at the time didn't want to stay there, so we had to follow suit.
okay,
So that's the thing with
sure.
marriage.
Absolutely, yeah. You don't always get The kids don't always get the choice to
No.
figure into what that decision is gonna be.
That
Was,
sucks.
was the area that you were at, was it close to Atlanta at all?
We're in Georgia.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was actually 30 minutes south from Atlanta. So yeah, that's where I really was able to like meet a lot of artists and stuff, especially when I went to my first college was
yeah,
better than high school actually. I mean, it was way better. I mean, I don't know why, but the work was easier. I don't know. But college was way easier. I chose the wrong college because I didn't know any better, but because I was like I said, I was a school not the school like I guess somebody that just didn't like school. So I didn't want to go to a regular college. Like I just wanted to like the Orange to Atlanta was they came to our high school and they were like, "Yeah, you can do some hands-on, you can learn audio production and stuff." And I said, "Oh, this is what I need. I need something that's hands-on. I don't want to go to Clark. Was it Clark? Clayton. I don't want to go Clayton University because I was like, that's so serious, and I'm not going to do well there." In my mind, I thought,
yeah.
but I still chose the wrong college. Orange Atlanta wasn't. It was a snake oil salesman, so they really took advantage of a lot of students. So I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
even get to finish there. I only completed a year there
Okay,
because of the money and stuff.
right. With having to bounce from location to location, you said you had started to develop some friendships and it felt a little bit more able to fit in out in California. When you got to Georgia, was it another scenario like it was in Virginia where you felt even more out of place again?
Yeah, I felt it was a different vibe though, because Georgia's still a
Yep.
different vibe from Virginia, but it
Yep.
was still like I was still kind of out of place. I was like, yeah, the oddball out all the time.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, my family is all from East Tennessee. So
Oh,
I have a bit of an understanding of what the South is like. Even
yeah.
though here in Michigan, outside of Detroit, I went to school here, we would take our vacations and holidays and go down to Tennessee where all the family was. My dad had come up here
Mm.
early on and when he was married, got married to my mom because he was a mechanic. So the auto industry being here was prime opportunity for him to be able to have consistent work. So that was a reason
Mm.
why they came up here from Tennessee.
Oh,
But
wow.
but both sides of the family are all East Tennessee, so I definitely understand
Yeah, it's
what the
probably
South.
opposite.
Yeah,
Yeah, Michigan and Tennessee vibe is totally different. I
yeah,
already can imagine.
yeah, definitely, definitely. There's a different dynamics within all of that area of the southern South SEC states. It's definitely each one has its unique perspective on things as well. Um,
Yeah.
once
Yeah, it's
you
interesting how that is.
once you realized that this art school was not going to be the thing that you needed to help you move further along, what was your mindset in terms of this is where I think I might want to go, or what did you do at that point in time?
I went to Art of Atlanta for a year and I really met some cool people. I had a really good time. I learned a lot about audio production and also learned a lot about at the time everybody was creating their own studios. It wasn't like at that time it was like you don't need to go to the big studios no more. You can go on your iPad and do your thing. You got the Fruity Loops and all those things was coming up. And I was like, whoa. So it was cool, but then I didn't know the money side of it. So when I felt like I was lied to. I was like devastated because then I said, well, what am I gonna do with my life at this point? Because I thought audio production, I can go get a job at CNN or something and do audio there or something so I can survive while I'm trying to pursue this dream. But that ended quick after a year. And so after that, it was like went into depression. I went to deep depression for like probably a year or two. Like, even my
Okay.
20s was tough. I just didn't know what to do. And after that, you owe all this money to a college, and then you can't really, where else are you gonna go? And at that time, I was still not into school, so I didn't want to go and be like, oh, let me go to Clayton State now or what. I didn't want to do that because I just still wasn't into it. So it was a tough time, very tough time. I didn't, yikes.
Yeah. With that being in that state of mind and that depression, were you able to write any music at that point in time? Or and was that something that was kind of maybe help pull you through that?
Yeah, I did write some music and stuff. My first album came out, I was 23. I met a guy on Reverb Nation. I put my first song on Reverb Nation, which was Chocolate Man, which was a song I wrote 11th grade. And actually I had some at the time MySpace was the king. So I had met somebody from MySpace that invested in Chocolate Man for me. She was a fan because I think I sung some background music for a rapper. And so I put it up there and people heard my voice and then she found me and then that's how it all happened. So Chocolate Man came out after, I think after I was 21, it officially came out. And then after that, the album came out when I was 23. But Reverb Nation was like this place where I met people and stuff to help me out. And that's where I met my first music producer, Rio Soul. And he was kind of like this swanky neo soul type artist producer himself, and I it was somebody that can understand my eccentric style. So
Yeah.
he was the best person to do my first album with, and Limitless came out. It was just like it was like a win for me, even though I'm not gonna get $1 million. I didn't have any marketing money or nothing like that, but it told me that I could do something, and so I was still very excited about that.
Okay. And did that help you move through that depression when those things were starting to take place? Did that bring you out of it, or did you still feel that weight as you were working through it?
I still felt that weight because it was like, okay, I did this cool thing, but I'm not making the money I need to continue it. I'm like, I'm not making the money I need, and I'm looking like to me, I'm looking like a loser. So
Okay.
I thought that I looked like a loser because I'm like, well, I don't have money to show for this. I got these odd jobs, which was cool. Some of the odd jobs were pretty cool to have because you learn about different things if instead of just staying at one job. But it didn't look make me feel successful. I felt like, oh, I failed as an artist. I look stupid because it's just so many stories. And at that same time, I was learning things about the music industry that I just didn't like. You know, as you grow up, you learn about it and you're like, oh, did I even really, would I want this? But that's later on when I figured that out. But at that time, I thought that's all I had to, and it was just that tough time where it was like, what is going to happen to me? And that was that, I had that feeling until I was like 26, 27.
Okay.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
tough. I didn't have a good early 20s.
Yeah. From what you're telling about your story so far, it seems like you felt like an outcast for most of
Hmm.
your early life,
Hmm.
elementary, junior high. Started finding some people, and when you got to the performing arts school, even progressed further when you got into California. And then you end up getting moved again to Georgia,
Hmm.
which is, again, that's a lot of shifts in environments for a kid. And it's hard to find your footing within those types of
Hmm.
moves to give you some kind of grounding and foundation for. But there's another thing that's coming out for me within your story is there's a strong line of resiliency that I'm seeing.
Hmm.
What, if you can put a finger on it, what was the thing within you that kept you moving through each one of these moves and kept you in the pursuit of trying to do music?
It was really just trying to really, this is a bad reason, but I wanted to prove people wrong.
That's not a
I
bad
wanted to
reason.
prove
Are you kidding
people,
me?
I wanted to prove people wrong. I
Yeah.
wanted to say, now, not on my dad's side of family, they was always rooting, but on my mom's side of family, they were just looking at me like I was, like, what's wrong with you? You're not that good, or, you're not, like, what is she doing? So I wanted to prove them wrong and show them I can do this. I can be a big singer, and I thought that meant fame. I didn't know at the time what I wanted to be as a singer. I assumed that that's what I needed to be as a singer. So that's what I thought at the time. And so that's why I kept going because I wanted to prove people wrong. So
Yeah.
that was the main reason
Okay.
at that time.
Yeah.
It's different
Yeah.
now.
Well, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that is number one, it's a confidence in yourself and what you feel that this musical vibe that's inside of you, you have this sense that this is the thing that's supposed to be for me.
Hmm.
And even if you're getting this feedback that no, you're not that good at this, you're not that good at that, or the the trials of having to do the schoolwork along with the musical aspects of things.
Hmm.
Getting that feedback that's not always positive or inspirational or encouraging, you
Hmm.
almost develop that internal angst of, I need to prove everybody wrong, that what I'm feeling inside definitely needs to come out. And I need to be able to express this in some way whenever I can get to the point where it feels comfortable. I think that's
Hmm.
just, it's a protective mechanism that builds up, especially in creatives, to
Hmm.
where it's just this inner churning of, we know we're supposed to be creative, we know we're supposed to be making things, we know we're supposed to be
Hmm.
creating things, and it just builds up to the point where we have to move in this direction because any other way doesn't really always feel right for us. Even though, we take
Mm-mm.
on side jobs or different things that may seem off track, but we have this internal movement that's saying, I need to do this. I need to be this creative spirit, this creative soul. So
Hmm.
that builds up this little bit of angst, that chip on the shoulder of, I'm going to do this no matter what everybody else is
Hmm.
saying.
Yes.
I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it just shows, again, some more resiliency, some more determination to keep moving forward and to get to where you're at now. I think that's something that your story's already presenting that you may not be seeing or have seen it. But
No, right.
I just want to highlight that for you because
Thank you.
it's a very powerful tool to
Yeah.
navigate the creative world for sure.
Yeah, that is so true. I mean, it's just trying to be an artist is sometimes it's like I wish it didn't happen at times in the past. I was like, why do I have this in me? Why can't I just be normal, go to work and go home and don't have any passion and trying to promote this, trying to do this. But it doesn't go away. Like it for a true artist, everybody's different. But for someone that is like a true artist from the womb to the tomb,
Yeah.
it ain't going nowhere. It don't matter if one person here, it's gonna be with you forever.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. As you're doing these side jobs coming out of this art college and trying to figure out what the next thing is going to be that you step into, you've got a little bit of a taste of what it's like to produce some music and get it out there with MySpace and
Hmm.
put it out to the world. What are you thinking at that point in time of, all right, I've got to do something that's going to help fund this even more so? And what is the move there?
I did so back in the day, like Craigslist was actually somewhere you can actually get something good back at that time.
Right. Yeah.
And I remember applying to work for Carnival Cruise Lines, and I thought, well, I don't really want to do this job stuff. And I said, I need something different. So I didn't know if I was gonna get picked. I mean, this was an international casting call. It wasn't just US. It was a big deal. So
Yeah.
when I did get picked to sing on the cruise ship, I mean, and to do also be a game show host and stuff, which was my first experience with hosting, I thought that, okay, well, I can say I made it or something. I don't know in my mind. And I said, this can fund my music and stuff because then I was making the most money I've ever made.
Right.
But then I didn't like being on a boat. I didn't like the military style of it all because you still had to get up at a certain time. You still had to do certain things. You had to wear your hair the way they want you to wear it. You had to do, it was just stressful. And so then I said, well, this isn't really what I thought I wanted to do. I said, I thought this would be something more exciting. It was exciting in a sense, as an experience. I met people from all over the world, Germany, Russia, Jamaica, and I learned about their lives and they told me about their life and all the stuff they go through, the Philippines, people from the Philippines. It was an experience, but it wasn't my experience for a long term because I was supposed to go there for 6 months, 6 months off, 6 months, and I just couldn't do it. So I had to get off the boat. And then I
Okay.
said, dang, I failed once again because I had to get off the boat. And I didn't know what I was going to do after that. And it just, it hurt because after that, I started working for a coffee shop. And then it was an eccentric coffee shop, actually. It was like a spiritual coffee shop in downtown Atlanta. And I thought,
Okay.
well, maybe this is a way for me to learn entrepreneurship. And that's when the entrepreneurship team started coming to my head. Ding, ding. I was 24 when I got the boat. Yeah, I was like 24. Because I just did my album, then went on the boat, then came off after a few months and started working at the coffee shop and started learning about entrepreneurship. And it's this because the guy that owned that owned the coffee shop slash spiritual shop, he had a successful farm from Africa in Africa where he grew his beans, and he taught me about the coffee industry. And it was
Okay.
just like it was like an internship, paid internship for me. But that was just still short lived. It was just a few months because it wasn't a lot, it wasn't enough money, but it was like it was an experience, just like
Yeah.
how the boat was. But I couldn't stay there, and also the people at the shop, besides the boss was never there, but everybody in the shop was kind of simple mind, like they weren't open minded like I was. So it was hard
Okay.
working with them. Whereas the customers loved me, and it was great learning from the customers that came in, but the people that was around me were not as open minded as I was. They didn't understand me. So it was that feeling of lonesome again. And I was like, dang, should I have stayed on the boat? Everybody on the boat loved me. I had a great thing going on the boat. And even the
Yeah.
director of entertainment on the boat, when I told her I wanted to leave, she was like, what makes you think you're gonna do a regular job? You're not a regular job type girl, and you're trying to go back into that again. And she was right. I'm not. I wasn't. But being on a boat wasn't for me. Maybe if I was on land, I don't know how it would have felt if it was a job just another country and I'm on land working. But
Right.
I just couldn't stay on the boat. So yeah, going to that coffee shop after was like, dang, did I fail once again? Because now it's like I'm back to this weird lonesome feeling working in this coffee shop, and I wanted to learn because I thought it was so cool. So going to a shop where you're selling spiritual stuff, and I learned about all types of, I guess you could say, religions. I didn't know much about that. It was like my first time learning about different religions. Like, oh, this person's a Buddhist, this person believes this, and they come in, and it was just so interesting to me. So
Right.
so that was like an experiment, but it wasn't something it was still short lived. But yeah, I didn't know I was going to do at that point. I was like, what am I going to do? So doing that, yeah.
Go ahead. I was going to say, what did you decide to do?
Well, I worked at a coffee shop for a few months, and of course, I had to move on because, like I said, the people in the shop, well, the people that was working there, they didn't understand my frequency, and frequency, is like a vibration. Some people don't, you ain't vibrate on the same frequency, and I just wasn't. And even the boss of the shop said, hey, they don't understand you. They're kind of jealous or whatever. He even knew, but he wasn't there to protect me, or nothing like that, because he was the boss. He was always in Africa. So at that point, when he said that, it was like, okay, you know what? I got to move on. So that's when Reno had moved on. And after that, I don't even know what I did after that. I think I just started working some other random jobs. Like I got into the brand ambassador time, the brand ambassador situation where, I was promoting products, liquor brands and stuff like that. And because I
Okay.
just didn't want to work at TJ Maxx or anything. I didn't want to do that. I didn't like it. It was so rigid. I didn't feel comfortable. So for me,
Sure.
when I can do something independently, which was me going to a liquor store and setting up promoting the liquor, which I didn't even drink at the time. I wasn't a
Okay.
drinker. I never was into drinking. I might do a shot here and there, but I learned a lot about liquor, learned how to speak to people, and I realized, oh, okay, maybe I'm good at speaking to people. So that was
Right.
something that helped me pay the bills until I got into tech, which came
Right.
out of nowhere. I'll let you, I'm gonna sit there and go into it yet until you ask me.
What was, how did the opportunity to do promotions with liquor, how did that come across your view?
Oh my God, Craigslist. What's
Craig's
So
another Craig's.
Craigslist has always given me jobs.
Okay.
And some people were scared of it at the time. There was a story, I think I was 24, 25, when there was a Craigslist killer or whatever was going on. But
Yeah.
I just had discernment. And back then, I didn't even know, I had a little voice in me all the time, but I just sometimes ignored it. Sometimes I listened to it. But when I did listen to it, I avoided trouble. So it was just common sense. When something didn't make sense, I didn't do it. But that job made sense. So I went to an audition, and this was my first one was with I can't remember the name of it. I think it was called Frontline Marketing, and they represented Heineken. So Heineken was a big brand, and
Yep.
and I said, okay, let me see if I'll get picked. I was always skinny, girl, and they picked me, and I was able to make like 33 an hour, and just standing there saying, hey, you want some Heineken? You want to try it out? And I would I was one of the top salesmen there. Like, it was like one of those things where I said, well, maybe I meant to be a brand ambassador model or something. I didn't know what I was supposed to do, but it was
Right.
working. I was getting contracts. I kept getting work, and it was like part time, but it was enough to pay my little bills. I didn't have any kids or anything, so
Yeah.
30 an hour. Get paid weekly. It was enough to do what I had to do, and I just kept doing that it turned into promoting printers. I think my last job before I got into tech was a brand ambassador for Canon. I was in Best Buy. I would just stand there and answer questions for people with Canon printers and stuff like that. And that
Right.
was just jobs to me where I was still kind of like independent, but I was kind of like a boss, but I wasn't a boss. But it was like you didn't have anybody over you harassing you as long as you did your job. And that was something that I thought I was like, okay, well, maybe this is what I'm gonna have to do. And
Yeah.
but yeah, Craigslist was my savior. It got me on the cruise boat. It got me. I even auditioned for QVC too, but I didn't get picked for that because they thought I looked too young at the time. I was
Okay.
20, I think I was 21, but I probably did look too young at the time. But yeah, I didn't get picked for that. But and plus I would have had to move to Pennsylvania. I didn't want to live there anyway. So
Okay.
yeah. Yeah. So yeah, Craigslist was my savior.
All right. What's interesting too for me, from the outside looking in, is that you were right. That entrepreneurial spirit was starting to kick in from that
hmm
coffee shop, because shifting into doing promotions and stuff like that with liquor companies or printers or whatever, you have to take on almost a role of looking at it from the perspective of, this is my business, this is my product, and
hmm
I've got to try and pitch this as best that I can for whose product it actually is, right? So you're out
Yes.
there selling something and pitching something that's not really yours, but you have to take on the role that it is yours because you're that
Yes.
ambassador,
Yeah.
right? So, and I
Yep.
think that that's a great example for the creative community, and the fact that whatever field you're in creatively, you're going to have to at some point in time promote it like it's a business
hmm
or a product, right?
hmm
You're going to have to put yourself out there and try to get people interested in this. And many times it's not in the creative DNA to do that. A lot of
Whew.
times we just
No.
prefer to sit back in the corner or off onto the
hmm
side, do our thing, and we'll put it out there when we get finished with it, and then we'll just be on to the next thing, creating. Um,
Yep.
but that tie between the business, the entrepreneur, and the creative eventually has to come into play for you to be able to succeed. And I think
Really
it's,
does.
again, it's telling about the resiliency and the courage that is within you to be able to pivot and move within each one of these different, whether it's a state, whether it's a school, whether it's an industry or an opportunity. If it wasn't feeling right for you, you weren't afraid to go ahead and just pivot to something else,
Oh man, you read me well. You read
right?
me well, man. Most people can't read me that well, but yeah, that is definitely true.
Well, yeah, and again, I want to highlight that as listening to your intuition, that internal intuition that you have, that internal voice that says, this isn't right for me, so I'm going to move. I'm going to go away from
hmm
it. I can't stay in this any longer because it's just draining me. It's draining my soul. I've got to
hmm
pivot. It takes a lot of courage to do that. And it takes a lot of self awareness to do that as well. And I think this is
hmm
another point that we can highlight for the creative community is, don't stay in something so long that it completely depletes you. If you have that
Yes.
internal knowing to go ahead and just move to something else, to at least give it a try, then it allows you to continue to keep moving forward.
Yes, that is so true. I think that I see that a lot. People stay in something so long because they don't want to look scattered brain or something like that. And I thought at one point, okay, someone told me, oh, I thought you were scattered brain. And I'm like, I'm not at first. When you're younger, you get offended. You're like, "Oh, am I scatterbrained?" But then I realized that I was not scatterbrained. I was just doing what I had to do to survive and to figure out what I like. Figure out what the best direction was. So
Yeah,
that person and maybe others that didn't say anything didn't understand just me. They didn't
right.
understand what I was about. So that's that.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. After printers, what was the next thing that came across your view that you stepped into?
Well, it's crazy because in all these situations, at that time I was like, okay, what am I gonna do next? I'm not making what I want and I want to look like somebody, I want to be somebody. I couldn't at the time, like, well, I want to start my own brand ambassador company, but then it's like I just didn't have the income to do it. I just didn't have the business know-how. And rewind back because when I was at the coffee shop, I meant to say that I did start a coffee brand called Sequoia's Coffee
Okay,
through the owner's coffee beans that he was like, okay, you start this, but I had no idea how the money worked. Like I didn't know, okay, you buy a product, you got to make sure you get money back from it. I just
right.
didn't know, and I didn't know anybody around me that was an entrepreneur. So I was buying these coffee bags for like $40 because, I didn't have a lot of money to go get some big boy stuff done. I had to go and get them to bag it for me. And I didn't know I was just basically not, I was basically taking advantage of it. I was buying a $40 bag and selling it for 25. So it was just stupid. I didn't understand.
Okay,
This is funny, but I was getting people were noticing me because there wasn't a lot of women in with a coffee brand. So
yeah,
I even had a gas station say, "Hey, come here and promote your coffee here." And I was able to sell some bags and stuff, but I wasn't making any profit because I wasn't. It was just me selling it, but not making profit. So I was basically didn't understand. I didn't understand business. I didn't understand the money situation. So that was my first taste of entrepreneurship. Plus, at the time, like I said, one of the ladies in the coffee shop, she just didn't, which was his ex-wife. I guess she thought that he wanted me or something. The guy was 70 years old. I don't know what her problem was, but she was in charge of the coffee and stuff,
okay,
and she just wasn't down with me. So I couldn't stay in that business anyway, even if it was going right, I couldn't do it, because first of all, the money wasn't right, didn't work out. And then also she was involved. And so at that point I said, dang, the coffee dream is got over with and ended really when I left the coffee shop. So at that point, Sequoia's Coffee was on the back burner and I just couldn't do it. And I was disappointed in myself. But then I said, okay, and mind you, everybody on Facebook saw me and trying to promote the coffee stuff. And then I know where I stopped promoting it. And it just made me feel like an idiot because I already felt like, okay, singing, they don't see me on TV. So they already think I'm a loser. But at that point, fast forward to after that, and I was doing a brand ambassador work. I was on, I think it was on Facebook one day. I was sad again. I was depressed. I was like, what am I doing with my life? I don't know. So I was on Facebook and I saw that there was a tech program for people that had some college under them. You had to have been to college, went to college for a year in order to get in the program. I'm like, I don't know. People say I was technical, I guess, my life. I was able to pick up stuff quick with tech, but I didn't think I was I didn't go to Harvard. I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do this. Like, what is this? I didn't even know what it was. It was something for Cisco to learn about Cisco switches and stuff. And I thought they were
okay,
talking about coding because I didn't know anything. So
right.
I said, okay, I don't know what this is. I'm gonna apply because I need to do something. And I was 27. So then I applied for the program. I got in. It was through Obama's program for getting trades out there. He was trying to
Okay,
push people to get into trade. So they had
yeah,
welding, they had all types of stuff. But I said I
yeah,
can't do welding or nothing like that. So I chose the tech program to get my Cisco certified network admin cert. And a lot of people said, well, you're abandoning music. Why would you do that? Like some people that, not relatives, but people that I was around at the time that I've gotten to know. They said, you're
yeah,
abandoning music. You're not focused on one thing. You're all over the place. And I said, well, I'm not, I don't have any money. And I don't, and I learned at this point, I learned a lot about the music industry because I've met a lot of people. I didn't even go into that, but I was like, I want to be a boss with this music. I don't want to be under a label. I don't want to deal with that. I met some people in the industry that I didn't like. I didn't like what was going on, and I met some other people that went through stuff. I said, I want to be a boss. So when this tech program came, I didn't know what was going to happen. I wasn't really good at school, but it was a 3 month program. It was like 9 to 5, and I went through the program, and I was shocked. I had to study. I had to really buckle down because Cisco cert is hard. It wasn't something you can just a lot of people that's been in tech for years couldn't pass that cert. But
Right.
I just sat down and did the work, and I was able to get certified. And after that, I met a guy. I got into during the program. I got into a relationship with him, and was he was a real smart guy. Like I said, he had some issues, but but the whole thing is he got me into another side of entrepreneurship, which was selling Cisco switches. He had to connect. So I started after we graduated. I started selling Cisco switches on eBay, and we made a lot of money. But he had a gambling addiction, and that messed up everything.
Okay.
That didn't go, that was short lived. Then I said, okay, God dang it, I guess I have to find a job and stuff because I got involved with the wrong person. Because he had the connection to Cisco switches, I didn't have that connect, so I couldn't do the business. So at that point, that's when I got a job. I got a job in IT support, and I jumped up salaries. Let's put it this way, because IT support 50,000 starting off for somebody who's 27 was pretty great. Well, it was
Okay.
28. So that was when I started moving up the ranks, and I said, you know what, I need to study more in tech. I realized I was good at it. People was like, you're closing tickets, you're doing well. I said, well, dang, I think I could be. So I'm good at tech too. So that's when I started going crazy and trying to get really good at tech. I said I'm not cheating on music. I said, but tech was my side piece. I fell in love with tech. I actually really
Yeah.
loved it. I said I like tech. I don't like being at regular jobs with it, but I like tech. So
Yeah.
that's how I got into that, and that was able to fund my recording studio that I have in my home. I was able to
Okay.
like just live and learn about the music business. I was able to learn about money, how to make money in the right way, and what I really want to do with music. You had because you weren't in survival mode. When you're not in survival mode, you got a chance to say, well, what did I really want with this music? And at that point, you realize I didn't even want to be famous. I just want to hide and do my music, put it in movies and TV shows, and just chill. I don't need fame, but I didn't
Right.
know I wanted it. I wanted it that way until I realized until I made money from something else. And then I
Yeah.
realized that I don't want that fame, and I don't want to deal with the music industry people and all the politics they were dealing with. I didn't want to. I just didn't want to sell my soul, if you will, because that's what they wanted me to do in a lot of ways. These guys were sleazy. They wanted, oh yeah, come here and I'll help you, but you got to bring your sexy panties or shit like that. I didn't want to do that. And those are things I dealt with all through my 20s. Those are the people I met. And that's when I learned, that's not
Yeah.
what, I ain't that hungry, and I think that's how I got into that.
Well, what I'm seeing is this internal voice that you have, this intuition that's letting you know, hey, red flag, red flag, red flag. This ain't
Mm-hmm.
working the way that it's supposed to be working. They have
Mm-mm.
ulterior motives. They're wanting to take advantage of me and my situation. And it's allowing you to move and navigate out of things where if you were to have kind of just went along and stuck in with it with many people that want to get into the music industry, they fall into those traps. They fall into those things of somebody telling them they can take them to the moon, but they've got to
Mm-hmm.
do this, this, or this in order to get to the next level, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they go along with it, and after a period of
Mm-hmm.
time, it starts to deteriorate their soul again. That creative soul that wants to bring light and joy to the world through the vessel of their body, and whatever it be, their voice, their hands, their ability to play the music on an instrument, any of those things, it deteriorates and it chews them up and it spits them out. And a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times they don't go any further.
No.
They can have
Yeah.
all the talent in the world, but because of
Mm-hmm.
the way that the industry during the 80s, 90s, early 2000s was and has been for it, even back into the 40s, 50s, and 60s, the music industry is a beast that is
Mm-hmm.
hard to navigate, and it
Mm-hmm.
takes a whole lot of hardship, takes a whole lot of learning, takes
Oh
a whole
man.
lot of trying to figure things out quickly. Not everybody does. Some do. They break through. They get,
Mm-hmm.
on the top. but it's not an easy thing to navigate. And that's one of the things that I try to communicate with the audience too. Now in 2025, you got your phone, you have
Mm-hmm.
access to the world. You don't have to worry about a music label. You don't have to worry
Mm-hmm.
about a music manager. If you're just savvy enough to be able to create your music, put it out on
Mm-hmm.
one of the platforms, Apple, SoundCloud, any of the other streaming platforms, Spotify, Deezer, whatever, you
Mm-hmm.
got the opportunity to do something. And a lot
Yes.
of times it'll do something a whole lot faster than what a record label is going to allow you to move with. So
Yeah.
that's a thing that, again, highlighting that internal self that you have, that internal compass that's allowed you to move through things. And even too, moving
Mm-hmm.
into IT, right? You
Mm.
move into that just because you want some stability. You haven't had
Yes.
a whole lot of stability with having to move from state to state based on your mother's job, right? And
Mm-hmm.
you're having to re-navigate all these things. So wanting some stability that's just within you because of your life experience.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yep.
find it, you find out, okay, this can give me some stability. So I'm gonna stick with this a little bit longer. I'm gonna try to maneuver this IT field and see how far and where this can take me. Um,
Mm-hmm.
with that mindset of being in IT and seeing, oh, I am fairly good at this. Let
Mm-hmm.
me keep trying to move forward. Did you find any friendships within the work environment that started to encourage you as well? Or was it still feeling like the outsider in a space?
I think a mix of both.
Okay.
I think at times, I think people warm up to you. They don't, I mean, when you get in, they're like, huh? It's not a lot of people like me in tech. And then they kind of, I don't know. I think people see me as somebody just the underdog. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's good to be the underdog, but you automatically the underdog. And then you come in and they're like, oh, they start to realize that, oh, okay, she's different. She knows this stuff. She's not playing. Wow, she's good. And then after a while, you start to form these bonds. I mean, a lot of them don't, like when you leave a company, sometimes you don't talk to the people again, but then some people I have talked to again. Like some people I've been in contact for years, especially, and so I've created one guy, he's like my best friend now. Every year we talk, and he understands the tech lingos. When I call him, I can talk about that. And he also is artsy as well, so I can talk to him about the art
Okay.
side. So
Yeah.
it's and a lot of people don't, you don't understand. A lot of people in tech do art. A lot of people in tech
Yep.
are music producers, audio engineers, and so they pretty much understand what you're saying. But yeah, I've met him and a few other people that may have just stayed in contact with on LinkedIn, but he was like that one guy's the main person that I still talk to this day. And so it's like, yeah, I definitely had some connections and it's interesting, but I think people have to warm up to me. And once they warm up to me, it's like, it works out well, but it is a tough field, but I think that you just got to understand that people just got to warm up to you. And that's what something I had to learn.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then you learn people. You learn people.
Yep. Most
That's what
definitely.
you do because it's like the book How to Win Friends Influence People. I don't know. I guess when you get older, the situation. I probably always had it, but it came out when you really become an adult, and you're
Yeah.
like you read people. You can pick up on the personality. You vibe with them. You're still yourself, but you know what to say to this person, what not to say to this person. You know how to talk to them. You're like, it's like it's a game because life is a game, but you learn how to navigate the environments, and that's what kept me going into IT is that part.
Yeah, for sure. Another highlightable moment here is being able to figure that out, which again, I take it back to being in elementary school and then moving into junior high and high school for you.
Mhm.
You're having to navigate with all of these different people and trying to find
Mhm.
somebody that you connect with in some way or some shape or form that takes a skill set in order to be able to recognize certain things within individuals of whether, oh, it's a red flag, don't want to hang around that,
Mhm.
or okay, this feels a little bit more in alignment, so I think I may want to hang over here.
Mhm.
S- yeah, I don't know if you give yourself credit,
I
but
probably don't.
I want to give yourself a ton of credit today because I'm seeing in your
Thank
story
you.
multiple aspects and characteristics that are they're very powerful for navigating this world. This world is not easy. I
Woo, it's
definitely
not
know that.
easy.
Yeah, yeah,
It's not. And that's something I think should be a book on that. How to really read people so you can survive. Because regardless of what you're in, that's the only way I think you're going to be able to make it through and know when to get the heck out. I mean, actually, maybe I'll write a book on it in the future, but
there
that's
you go.
something that needs to be talked about more
Yeah,
often.
for sure. So as you're kind of getting used to being in IT and you're starting to make some money enough to be able to buy some equipment to do your
Hmm.
music at home, how did that make you feel? Did that open up the floodgates somewhat?
It did make me feel better because at that point I was done trying to prove it something to someone because now I knew what I wanted to do with music. I knew that what I thought I wanted to show is not what I wanted to do. So now it was like, oh, I feel good now. It's like it didn't matter if a relative thought I was nobody with my music anymore because I put out music and when I leave this earth, somebody's gonna always hear my music. And that was really what I wanted because I met so many artists that never put out any music, because they was scared or maybe they just didn't know what to do. But the fact that I was able to put out music before I leave Surf is still going to put out more just by doing my own thing, my own little studio. I was like, oh, okay. And then you learn a lot about, tech kind of help you with the music side because you learn about stuff like, like I think David Banner said, you're a slave to what you don't know. And I didn't want to always depend on people because sometimes I'll write a song and so everybody can't just jump on the song with you. They don't know how to pick the beat up. They don't know how to pick a rhythm up. And I thought everybody could do it. In my mind, I'm like, well, if he's a good music producer, he just pick up what I'm doing. No. So
No.
sometimes it's like, dang, I got to create this beat myself then. I got to figure this out. And that's what I did with my last song, Whiskey on My Mind, avant-garde A-type track. I had to figure out the beat myself. I had to navigate that. And that was scary, but I felt like if I didn't, I'll be waiting on something or I had to spend 30,000 on a big boy. And I didn't want to do that. I said, well, let me be the big boy. Let me rescue myself. And that's what I did. And I was pretty proud of myself. And so doing that, the first album and then the other singles that I've done after that, it made me feel, I don't want to say, I think it's a journey. I don't want to say I made it because you didn't make, I don't feel like I made it. It's a journey. I'm always going to be doing something, but definitely
Yeah,
felt some sense of success. Like I succeeded in something that, I didn't know I was going to be able to do. So
sure.
that was exciting.
Yeah, and two, in music, I think every artist is on a journey. They may hit levels of what seems to be success, but when they continue on too, they start to evolve. The older they
Hmm.
get, they start to experience more things and more life, and that changes a lot of times with the way the music sounds, the way the music looks, the way the music feels. It changes based on life experience because it's growth, right?
Hmm.
And those are the things that make the next steps even more wonderful a lot of times is because of that
Yeah.
growth and that growing in who you are, what you're doing, what you're feeling led to do. It just expands the whole atmosphere around a
It
creative art.
really does.
Yeah,
It really does. I mean, because I mean, what I like now is that artists are coming out and talking about their experiences and letting people know the truth. You hear that now, and I'm happy they're seeing it. Whether it's acting or singers or like I think one singer, I forgot his name. I think his name's Bryson Tiller or something like that. He said that he doesn't really like doing being in the music industry anymore. He's just doing it to support his family now. He doesn't like it, and I'm like, well, why would some people might say why would he say that now? But I think I see where he's coming from. Some people they don't know what else they would do outside of music. They're not into entrepreneurship. They're
right.
just going to do the music. And he's just saying he's doing this to survive, but he wish he could hide. And I think that's like to me, it's like a prison. And I'm happy that I didn't get involved in something like that where I'm just spitting out this music, but I'm only doing it to put food on the table. And it's like, and it's kind of like that now, you know. I mean, of course, I'm not doing everything I want to do, like the main thing I want to do, but I hate if I'm in a prison with my own passion. That's worse than me being in prison doing something else. I mean, I don't want to be in prison with my own passion. So when he said that, I was like, what the heck? But I'm happy that he's talking. I'm happy that others are talking about it because then they can learn. People can think. Young people, I wish I had them. I wish they were saying stuff like that when I was 20, you know, but YouTube was so fresh and things weren't, a lot of artists were scared to talk about the bad. They were hushed. But I'm happy that now the younger people get to see that so then they can think differently and maybe pivot, and you know, so that's one thing that I like now, the
Yeah,
vulnerability.
for sure. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm glad too that people are feeling more comfortable to be able to do that.
Hmm.
And that's one of the things that I'm trying to do with this podcast as well, is the fact that I want it to be a safe space where people can actually open up and discuss these things. Because the
Hmm.
more people that can hear it, the more people will be able to move forward in the creative world that they're in with a little bit of confidence of knowing that I'm not alone.
Yes. That's the main thing. And I think there's a singer named Sia. She mentioned that has severe anxiety and she doesn't even do performances or show herself, but she's making a lot of money. So I
Right.
think that's something that when I found that out, I was probably 26 or so. And I said, wow, that's really what I would like to do. I don't really need, I mean, I'm not saying I'll never perform again or whatever, because I performed before, but I wouldn't mind if I didn't perform and still do my music. I don't mind that neither. So, because I have severe anxiety too. So I said,
Yeah.
wow. So it's just, I'm happy she said that because that made me feel okay about the direction I'm going.
Right. With being in this new position with IT and opportunity to do the music on your own, did
Mhm.
some of that depression start to fade at that point as well?
It did. It started to fade away, especially when at the time I lived in California. I moved to California. I was like 29 with the guy I was doing the tech business with. We, you know, end up breaking up as soon as he moved there because he, like I said, he had a gambling issue. So then I was by myself in LA. I was like, oh, you know, by myself in LA and this, like, goodness. And I was still fresh in tech and I had to navigate my way there and I learned about the acting industry there. You know, I learned more about that, like what requirements for that, what is it, what goes on with that. I met so many people that were homeless trying to pursue a career, and some of them had, you know, education to where they can get a job and stuff, but they was focused on that acting career. They was living in their cars, trying to sleep on my floor. I mean, I
Right.
was just like, it was just like a whole rude awakening because, you know, it's like you hear so many stories, people going to LA, you know, they go to audition and they're rich. And it's like, that's not what I saw. I saw a lot of people really trying to bang on the door, trying to get there, living in hotels and stuff and willing to just suffer until they get there. And I mean, I didn't want to be broke while I'm trying to pursue a dream or anything like that. And I said, I just got to keep doing tech because there was a lot of times I was tested. Like I remember a director told me, he was like, you know, you got to choose what you're going to do. You know, it's a regular job or is it this? And it's like, but you're not even paying me what tech's paying me. And then on top of that, this is a one-time thing. And then what? You know, I quit this job and I'm back on. And that's the
Yeah.
thing that I had to learn about acting and stuff was that it was gig work. It was you had a boss and you have to, and you like it. It was a fun gig, but you got to wait for when is the next gig? You don't know. You have to get picked for each gig. So you might not have a gig for a while. So at that time I was like tech was I had to stay in it, you know, and whatever I could do around it was fine. And some of the scripts I didn't like all the scripts. I didn't like I just wasn't a desperate I realized I wasn't a desperate actor neither. I didn't want to do certain scripts. I was like, script is dumb, you know, I don't like this. It's like it's just certain things. Everything that I thought about acting, I learned a lot about that too. So it was at that moment where I was like, man, I'd rather do my own stuff. I don't want to do this. I'll do it. You know, something good come, I'll do it. But I'm not gonna just live on people's couches until I get that quintessential role because you can get a big role and then you still back to not having a job for years. And I'm like, what the heck? So I think that's why I said entrepreneurship and my job has to take precedence. And at the time, that's what I was focused on because I knew that I just didn't want to be one of those people because life is short, y'all. It's short yet long. But I wanted to also I want to be able to go get a piece of food that I like if I want to get it. I wanted to be able to have a decent place where I can live and feel safe by myself. I didn't want to live with 80 roommates. That
Right.
just was never my thing. It's if I'm gonna live with somebody, it's either my parents or I'm by myself. I'm not gonna not doing it. So yeah, I just had to fight that fight and realize what I wanted acting too. I had to learn that. And so that was a whole nother thing.
For sure. Another industry that can chew you up and spit you out very quickly.
Man, it
Yeah.
was crazy. I mean, I did a few things there, some extra work I've done, and because they say that's how you can get the SAG voucher or whatever. I had to learn about that, but they said you had to do some extra work and stuff. And I said, well, I can't do extra work all the time. It's not enough money, and I'm staying around for 10, 12 hours. I'm not doing that. But I did it for a minute just to try to get that voucher, and I still didn't get the voucher because and even if you did get the SAG voucher, I learned that it don't mean you're gonna get work and you still and you're kind of cock blocked because you can't
Yeah.
when you get the SAG voucher, you can't do the non SAG voucher work. So I said, you know what? This is all balloon here. I'm not gonna get into SAG until I get a TV show, ongoing TV show or something like that. Then I'll pay for it if they want me to do that. But it changed so much. I think acting drastically changed when I was trying to get in at 30 years old. It changed so much, and even now it's changed so much. It's not the same as it was when back in the maybe early 2000s or 1990s. It's all different. So it's like now I think even actors have to navigate a different way. You can't just go. You got to create your own stuff. You're gonna have to create your own projects, just like you do with music. You got to do it yourself, and because that's the way you're gonna get on. Unless you, because even if you get a role, you still need to keep making money. So you got to be a boss. And it's just, it goes back to everything's connected. You have to be a boss. And everybody's not meant to be a boss. I get it. But if you want it that bad, that's what you would have to do. So you can get some stuff,
Yeah, for sure. For
the
sure.
whole thing.
Where did the idea to start writing books come into play
Oh
for you?
man. I started writing books in my early 20s because it was, like I said, during that depression time, it was a way for me to like put out some steam. And
Okay.
at the time, I started reading like crazy when I was like probably in high school, 16, 17. And I started reading Paulo Coelho and The Alchemist and all types of books. And I said Eric Jerome Dickey became one of my favorite artists. I mean, favorite authors because my stepdad read a lot of his books and he just left them around and then I would just take it and start reading it. So at the time it was like, oh man, I want to write a book. This is cool. I said I can't go to studio because I couldn't afford studio time. I was in my early 20s. I went on ahead and started writing books and then my first book was a like a thriller romance book, but like I said, I was a novice. I didn't know about editing and all this stuff. I thought I could just write a book and just put it out there, but no, you can't. You gotta have an editor if you're not. I just didn't know about first person, third person. I didn't know anything about that. I just wanted to write a book. And so when my
Yeah.
first book came out and I got hit on Amazon with all types I didn't even think anybody was gonna be able to find it. Not like I paid money to get it marketed, but somehow people find my book. And I was just like, what the heck? So I had to, it took me a few years to be able to afford a good editor. And I had to republish the book at like 28, 29. I republished it and the big boy editor fixed the book and it was cool. And then after that, all the other books I had on the back burner because I was scared, I had him edit those and I was able to do my short story. I mean, I didn't put the compilation of short stories is not out yet, but I will be putting that out. But I put out my children's book after that, which was Sammy Bean, and that one was edited before it came out by the big boy editor,
Okay.
and I didn't have any problems with that one. And of course, the new version of my first book is now called Dark Obsession. That one now is edited properly, so now people that's not anal when they read the original book, they loved it. It's just the anal people was just crazy on my butt. But and at the time, Amazon book publishing was new,
Yeah.
because I probably was 21 when that came out, but yeah, that it was all new, so there wasn't a lot of authors. So that's why I stood out like a sore thumb. They found me and they're like, ah, yeah, yeah, yeah. But I'm actually happy it happened because I learned about the book industry. I
Right.
learned what needs to be done. I learned I'm not the best editor. And even if I was, you still should have a backup editor just to see double check. But at that point, I realized that going forward, I just need me a good editor, and I found a good one. So he's editing my books and stuff. So that was a great experience, and yeah, so that was
Very
my introduction to the book industry.
Yeah. Again, I want to point out for the audience another scenario where you decided to pivot
Hmm.
into another genre of creativity and you weren't
Yep.
afraid to do it. You just went ahead
Yeah.
and did it. And
I was afraid, but I just did it anyway.
well, you pushed through the fear, right? You
Hmm.
went ahead and did it.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
people could look at the way that you're telling this story and say, "Oh, well, she failed." Because, she
Hmm.
had people coming at her and saying, "Oh, she didn't edit it right. She didn't do this. She didn't do that." But I would venture to say you didn't fail. What you did was you put something out there and you just learned how to refine it, how you needed to
Hmm.
refine it. Same thing with music.
Yes.
Like you can put out a rough cut of anything
Hmm.
and it can sound a certain way. To some people, it may sound like, "Oh my God, that's amazing." Others,
Hmm.
maybe really deep in the industry, audio engineers or producers or whatever, they may look at it and be like, "Whoa, why'd you stop? Like you need to
Hmm.
go, you need to do some more to that." But
Hmm.
the key thing is create it, put it out. If it doesn't come out perfect the first time, plenty opportunity to redo it, which you did.
Yes.
You redid it,
Yes.
got in touch with somebody who could edit it and help you with the editing, and then you re-put it out there.
Hmm.
Again, this is a that characteristic of resilience, courage, willing to listen to your internal voice that's telling you, "Just try this, move in this direction." And as much as you're saying that you have fear, your
Hmm.
actions are showing that you have a little bit of fearlessness within you
True. Yeah, it's true.
to just
That's
go ahead
true.
and do it. And I think that's where a lot of creatives get stuck
Hmm.
is,
Man.
right? That
Hmm.
anxiety that builds up in them, that fear
Oof.
of, I can't, it's
Hmm.
not going to be good enough. It's not going to be good enough.
Hmm.
When they stop there, they have no idea what's on the other side of it.
There we go. See, that's the thing. Yep.
Yeah,
Because it's subjective. I feel like art is so subjective, man. Like a painting, or if you go to a paint show and you see all these paintings and stuff, it's like one person will say, "Oh, this picture ugly," and the next person gonna be like, "Man, this is the bomb." I love this.
right.
And I'm one of those. I love art and stuff. So it's like I could. It's just all subjective. I had to learn that. I had to. That's why I said if somebody don't like my music or my books, it's all subjective, and you don't like it, but it don't mean somebody else not gonna like it. So.
Yeah,
That's why I keep vibing with it.
for sure. For your children's story, what was the premise behind coming up with that story?
Well, it was about bullying. I felt like when I was in elementary school, I was kind of bullied and, skinny, and they used to make fun of me for being so skinny and stuff and ask me, did I eat and stuff. And I felt like the book, it was just trying to t tell kids something like to just be more supportive with each other, and don't it's kind of fancy in it because there's a little bit of fighting in it. It was like a fantasy fight. It was kind of cute
All right.
little thing. It could be like an anime if I had the money, but because it was
Right.
the characters was in anime. Like I found a really good artist on Craigslist, and he did a great job with. I mean, he actually had a passion for my story, even though it wasn't his story, but I could feel like he felt like he was in the story or something. So he really put a lot of energy into creating these characters. And I think that it's a small children's book. It's like 10 pages, but it's very powerful because sometimes you can think, oh, it's too short, but it was just meant to be the way it was meant to be. Some things are just meant to stay at where it stays at. And so
For
I just
sure.
wanted to inspire kids to support each other and make it fair, and that's what inspired that story. It was just from my own life of things I went through. But even though in the story, the character it has different type of he's being bullied in different type of way, but it still was kind of about my own story. And then growing up watching the cartoon Recess and all the things that the kids went through on the playground, I kind of added some of that in there, the kids' lunch money getting taken because this is before the smartphones and all the cool stuff. Kids are outside, and so that's why I kind of had some nostalgia, you could say, for Sammy Bean because it was like this thing where the kids in the playground, they're picking on each other in the playground and stuff. So yeah, that's what inspired me to create that little story.
Nice. How about this card deck that you've come up with?
Oh boy. So
How
that
did that come about?
it's crazy because I was working, this is when I was in LA too, because I was working at Riot Games, I was a tech there. And I remember I was like, I always loved the game industry. I probably didn't talk about that, but when I was a kid in elementary school. I always had Sega, Nintendo, because my grandma
Okay.
would buy me that. My dad's mom would buy me that. And so I was obsessed with games. I was competitive. So when I started working at Riot Games in Cali, I was like, I remember one day I was just sitting there and one of my coworkers came in and he gave us all a Pokemon card. He said, I got a cool Pokemon collection that I was able to buy, and I'm giving all of you a free card. I said, okay. So I looked at the card and I remember, I was the only girl on the team, and I remember the guys talking about dating all the time, all the stuff they were going through and all this stuff. And also I knew about the ladies that I met in LA that was going through dating issues and stuff, and then my own issues. And at the
Sure.
time I said, I saw the Pokemon game card. I looked at it, I said, sweet. I don't know why the Pokemon gave me Pokemon card made me think about dating assassins. I guess League of Legends was the biggest game there and stuff like that. So in my mind, I thought assassins because you think I don't know. I mean, it just assassinates your truth, right? Like a lot of people can come off and tell you something about themselves when you're dating and stuff. And then if you really somebody that wants somebody that's compatible or somebody that you really kind of know, do you really know them? It's
Right.
like I said, I wanted to. So 2018, I said, let me create 150 questions where we're just vetting potential partners. And I wanted
Okay.
it to be for the daters, out there that's just trying to figure out what the heck is going on. People that's serious and don't want to get duped because one bad relationship can ruin your life.
For
It's
sure.
very serious out here. So that's when I talked to my mom about it. She helped me with some questions and stuff. And as a
Yeah.
married woman, what she had felt like she could have asked when she was dating. So it was great to get advice from her.
Yeah.
And so at that time, I created those questions, and I didn't know if I was going to be able to. I didn't know how I was going to get the game out there. I didn't know if I was going to because of funding and stuff. Because even though I was making more money, I still stayed in LA. I had my rent was high. It was like whoa. So I didn't know when I was going to do the game, but then, so I sat on the game for a bit. I played it a few times with some people I would just go on a date with or whatever, but I've been, single for like 7 years because I just wanted to focus on me. But at the time, I still went on dates, talked to people, and I would ask them a few questions and stuff, and the guys seemed to be into it. They answered it, and I learned a lot about them. Because people think, oh, they're gonna lie. No, it was weird because some people, when they're drinking and stuff, or even if they're not drinking, they kind of feel, I guess, heard because you're asking
Yeah.
these questions and they feel like, oh, somebody's listening to me. I got
Yeah.
something to say, and they probably didn't even know they had something to say. It just came out and it makes them think. And then you ricochet into another question that may not be from the card game because the point of the card game is for you to sit down and talk. Now, and you might ask one question and you start somehow that one question leads you to something else that you didn't think about. So
Right.
the point of it is to sit down and figure out who the heck am I dating if I want a serious relationship. Now, if you don't, then I mean it's whatever. But this card game is for serious daters that don't want their life effed up. You don't want
Right.
your life effed up. So you need to sit down and play the game and you'll learn lots about somebody because the point of it is if you see somebody get nervous with a question and the point is not to judge somebody but to say, well, why are you so nervous when answering this question? Like, what is it that makes you feel uncomfortable? Because then that lets you know, well, maybe this not person might not be for me, or maybe this person is for me and I can help them. But it helps you figure it out, so you're not wasting your time or their time for a serious dater. And so that's why I created it like a little game where we're assassinating your truth. And when you see them moving and stuff, you're kind of saying, hey, you've been assassinated, bro. Like you're not telling me everything you're supposed to be telling me. But it doesn't mean the game has to end. You're just trying to figure out what's going on. Now, if you want it to end because something ain't, you just ain't feeling it, the vibe is off, then you move on. But that's the
Right.
point of the game, is to assassinate their truth. Because facts are the enemy to the truth. Because my truth could be something I can say anything to you, but I'm
Yeah.
lying. But I can really believe it. It's a psychological warp that people
Yeah.
have in their mind that they really believe something they just said, but it's not real. So you're trying to get to the facts, which is what the,
Right.
the hardcore facts of it all. And so that's why I created that game. And I learned from this game too that you have to be I didn't know people need detailed instructions for that, but you do. I mean, evidently, I thought
right?
that you just I'm kind of a quiet alpha, so for me, if something's given to me, I'm going to make up my own rules. But for some people, you have to start with step one, step two, even for a game like this. Because to me, so I had learned that, and I had to refine the instructions the second year. Because I put the game out in 2022 because I came with the idea in 2018, but I had put it out in 2022.
Okay,
But during that time, I learned that instructions have to be very detailed because people they'll get upset, like, "Oh, I don't understand playing the game," But
right.
it's really just questions. But I learned a lesson from that is to be detailed as possible with anything you're doing, any type of game, or even just anything. You have to be detailed because everybody don't think like you. They're not going to just jump in and make up their own thing. So I did refine the instructions for it, and it's working out better now and stuff. And yeah, so that was just like another learning experience. And but a lot of I think a lot of people, can get nervous about a game like this, but I think that if you really serious about dating, it can help you out. And it's an experience to me. It's like podcasting, but you're sitting down and you're talking to someone. And so I really want this game to go where it needs to go because I think that it can really help people. And then I can also jump into the regular conversation game where it's just going to be regular conversation. And that's what I want to do next. But I want to get this game more out there. And that's what I want to do first before I jump into the regular conversation game that I want to do next.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. I
Yeah.
think, and we're going to have that information too linked in the description of the episode for you.
Awesome.
I think it's beautiful that you came up with that. And the reason I say it is because I feel that communication is one of the key things that does not allow any relationship to move forward. It's
Mm-hmm.
because there's this fear of communicating with each other. But essentially, that is the key to the relationship is being able to communicate, right? Express what you
Yes.
need, express what you don't like, express the things that you're feeling, asking your partner, "Hey, what's going on with you? What's happening? That was cool that you did that. I appreciate that. Thank you." All of that
Yeah.
communication, I feel, has kind of fallen to the wayside with some of the technology of having a phone at your disposal.
Mm-hmm.
It's easier. Most people just want to text back and forth, right?
Yes.
I
Yes.
feel that it's it's done a disservice in that way to communication because it's
Mm-hmm.
easier just to say something fast in a text and then you don't have to do anything after that if you don't want to,
Yep.
right? So the
Yep.
conversation just stops before it really gets going.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
I think gamifying it the way that you have, it makes it a little bit more fun to try and get to know
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes.
and especially if anybody that's into gaming as well, I think it's hugely beneficial because they'll understand it from that perspective. But also, too, it's taking it back to that basic principle of just communication to get to know,
Mm-hmm.
to find out things
Yes.
about each other that may be compatible, may not be compatible. But hey,
Mm-hmm.
at least we're having a conversation.
Yes, yes, that's how I look at it. And like I said, these questions can make you just think about another question that you didn't think about. And that's the thing. Like, even if you don't like some of the questions that's in there, at least made you sit down and talk, and then you can ricochet into other conversations. So that's how I look at it. And you can play it with another card game because there's other dating card games you play. It's just one of those things where back in the day you had Monopoly, then you got Mr. Doctor or whatever they were. This
Yeah,
is that's why I was like, okay, I wanted this to be nostalgic and have something in your hand. I
you're
mean,
right.
eventually will I make an app for it, when I get bigger with it, maybe, but I'm always going to keep the card game available as long as we can ship things. I'm gonna
Yeah,
keep it available so people can have something in their hand because I think it's something that's gonna come back. It's coming back in style. And it's gonna grow because people want something that's in their hand, especially if the internet go out one day or something. You always have something to play with. So that's why I was like, it was important to do this. And like I said, these questions ain't for the faint of heart. These questions are some tough questions, but it has to be asked. And the good thing is you can blame it on the card game. Like, well, the card game said it, and
Right. Yeah, easy out.
no, yeah, yeah. So I think, and then, like I said, you don't have to answer the questions. I also said you can pass on the question. You can say pass. I don't want to answer it, and that's fine too. But I think some people thought they had to answer the question. It's like weird how people think, but that's why I had to put that in instructions. You don't have to answer the question if you don't answer it.
Right.
If that's up to you, it's your life. But it's just that the point is that you have something to talk about, and if you don't want to answer questions or you don't want to ask the question, you don't have to.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Did some of your tech background help you in figuring out the way to lay out the instructions?
I think it did in a way
Okay,
because yeah, I think so because it just made me think. I mean, I thought for the way the instructions was at first was very kind of small, like it was just like straight to the point, like just if you see him shaking or sweating, yell you're assassinated, game over. It was like it was very simple type instructions, but and I thought it was like a joke kind of way, like okay, people can understand that you can still play the game. It's just you're just having fun, but I didn't know that people would take it literal and not
right,
understand anything. So I was like, okay, let me just. And that's when I had to really, and honestly, I learned this in tech too. So at the time, I wasn't just learning this for the card game. I was learning this in tech. When I write technical documentation, you can't assume just because this person is 30 years older than you and been in tech 80 years is just going to understand what you just did. No, you have to
right.
start from step one and you have to explain it like that. And so at the same time I was learning that in tech and with the dating card game. So when I read it, the instructions. So honestly, being in tech taught me how to structure things from step one all the way from the yeah, so then anybody can follow the game and do it in a way where they understand so they don't feel like they don't know. And so yeah, so that was an experience. It was definitely experience. And so that's what I learned.
Nice. Very cool. Again, another example of if you're creative, there's all kinds of things that you can step into. If you
Oh
just
man.
if you're just willing to allow your mind to expand, look at other things as opportunities, look at other things as potential revenue streams. And I think that's a huge part of being an artist as well in terms of music. If you're only thinking of just the music itself, one individual song or one piece of musical instrumentation without vocals, you're just only thinking of it like that as an artist, it's only going to take you so
Hmm.
far.
Yeah.
If you're
Yep.
thinking of yourself of, okay, I want to be as big as um, Beyonce or Jay-Z, you've got to look at it from the perspective of once I start moving with my music, I've got to start thinking of additional revenue streams
Hmm.
because when the record is done its run, there's going to be a period of time where you've got to create the next one. So it's
Yep.
going to be a lull in the money flow.
Hmm. Hmm.
But if you
Hmm.
have these additional options for revenue streams that can just continuously move along while that
Hmm.
album's doing its thing, then that lull that you're going to have in between albums is going to be a lot smoother versus it
Yeah, I totally agree.
just dropping off to nothing. Like, and
I totally agree.
that's why I've always encouraged musicians that I've worked with over the years of first off, hey, let's look at merch. What kind of merch can
Mm.
we create around this album that's going to help support it? Because once you start doing gigs and you're at whether it's a small music venue or you're at a large stadium, if you don't
Hmm.
have some merch to go along with that, you're
Hmm.
missing out on an opportunity.
Yes.
Because when people get to see you perform and get to see you interact as that musician, that artist, that's another element that pulls them in to wanting to be a fan of you, wanting to know you better, wanting
Yep.
to say, "Hey, I like this artist, so I want to show that I like this artist." So one of the
Hmm.
things that they think of is, oh, is there a T-shirt that I can buy? Is there a poster I can buy? Can I get
Hmm.
stickers or any of that type of stuff? Those are things that allow that album, those songs, to start to grow and expand outwardly because
Hmm.
the fan is able to go and buy these other things, which again,
Hmm.
additional revenue stream, buy
Yep.
these things to support you, wear it around, say, I'm a fan of this person, I'm a fan of that person,
Hmm.
because I got that on their t shirt. Um,
Yep.
I've got their sticker on my car, or I've got
Yep.
the poster up on my wall. Those kinds of examples of things to think of as
Hmm.
starting out as an artist. When you're creating that album, think of, all right, what can I do with this song to expand it out into some products? What can I do with this whole
Hmm.
album to expand it out into some products? Those are the revenue
Hmm.
streams that keeps things going in those
Yes, and
industries.
I totally agree, especially if you're like performing, because I feel like I was just writing on somebody's YouTube the other day. This young lady says that she wants to take her music off Spotify and stuff like that because she feel like it's taking they're taking her money or whatever the case. And my thing is, I just think I do see where she's coming from, but when you're an independent artist, like I think most Def took all his music off Spotify and stuff like that, but when you're an independent artist, I still feel like it's important to leave it on there. But I mean, I think that the main way you're going to make money is performing live. So if you're
Yeah,
trying to make money in the music industry at this time, because even the big artists said they make more money performing live, you have to just start learning the business side and create your own shows because she has a good following on YouTube. Learn how to go on Eventbrite and set up your show there, and then
yep,
and start getting booked. Because the weird thing with me is like I've seen, I don't know, I don't have like a lot of followers and stuff like that. But if I was to, when I do say, okay, when I want to do a show or something like that, I do get some people. It's like, okay, I'll buy a ticket. They may not even have streamed a song or what. They just want a show. They just want experience. So
right.
I told her, think about creating an experience, and people will just come for the experience. I mean, and
Yep,
so I don't know people's money background and stuff, but you can just if you're like a eccentric person anyway, you're chill over. You don't have to have a cute, cool outfit or nothing like that. Just have normal outfit, rent a venue, and a lot of times here in Vegas, you can rent it for 50 an hour, and
yeah,
then you put on a show. You put on a show and you sell the tickets on Eventbrite. People want something to do. You can have like cool art there, some wine, and people will because they want experience, and you gave them an experience. And I think that that's what she should do if and I wrote her that. I wrote it in the comments, but I wanted everybody to see that. I wanted artists to see it because that's what you should do. Don't just depend on YouTube and stuff. Rather you have one follower or a million, do your shows and people start coming up, start showing up and stuff like that. So, and that's something that, I might do in the future, but I think that yeah, you start realizing you got people that's just willing to come for an experience. I
yeah,
mean,
exactly.
it's just what it is. They may not even heard of you before. It's like, well, she's cute or I like her, she seems kind of cool. Let me just go here and just watch this person because $5, $10 tickets. And then you have your merch sitting out and whatever experience they can have. And I think that's what artists should start doing if they want that money now. I think,
Yeah,
and of course, like you said, you have to have multiple streams of income to do that. I don't know if that person's just relying on YouTube or not, but if you are someone that has a good job, then you'll be able to fund it and create these events, and then they'll be you start growing. You can add other neo soul artists or rock artists or whatever, and you start making money that way. So that's just something I thought about because I realized that more people want experience more than anything, just more than music, rather you're that good to them or not. They just want to have something to do and something to look at. And I
yeah,
realized that. I really did. So that's what I would say to artists is to do that. And it's okay to have multiple things. If you can handle it. Everybody's brain is different, but if
yeah,
you don't want to be just poor, sitting around sad, then that's something that we can do.
absolutely,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah.
And the other thing too is, and I don't know if you're familiar with Patreon or not.
Oh,
Um,
yep, I know about it.
so
Yep.
even with that, right? Patreon is a space where you can create whatever you're making, whether it's painting, drawing, music, whatever. And you can charge subscription scenarios and also have a reward for whatever subscription level you've created. If it's $5, then they get a thank you note that you'll send them. If it's
Yep.
$10, maybe they get an extra sticker and a thank you note. Those types of things,
Hmm.
which again creates that whole scenario like with Taylor Swift. The way that
Hmm.
she's created her community is based off of her engaging.
Yep.
Patreon allows you that opportunity to be able to engage without having to go outside your house even,
Yeah, that's another
right?
way. That's true.
And you can set it up even to the point where, like, we're talking about creating these events and doing Eventbrite and so on and so forth. You could
Hmm.
also do this with Patreon, where you're setting it up so that if you create a ticket price, you could structure it so that that ticket price allows anybody that buys it on that subscription to get into an event that you're going to do live online for
Yep,
the
that's true.
community.
Yep.
So
Yep.
another thing you're creating is an exclusive experience because it's only
Hmm.
just for the people that are there. And also, too, it allows you to control the flow. So if you're somebody who has super high
Hmm.
anxiety or
Yeah, that's yeah.
has a fear of being in front of people, you can create how many people you allow in.
That's
So
true. Yeah, because Eventbrite, you might get hit with a bunch of people. You never
right, right.
never
So
know. Mm.
and this ties into the entrepreneur thing that you've been talking about too as well, is being able to control the way that your business is moving and functioning, right?
Hmm.
And if you're that sensitive artist who has super high anxiety about performing in front of people, you can set it up to where, say, maybe you only allow 20 people in for the first time that you do,
True. Yep.
then you see how that feels for you. How did
Hmm.
how comfortable were you with doing that for 20 people? Next
Hmm.
time, maybe you up it to 30. Next time out, maybe you up it to 50. And if you're doing $10 ticket for this experience, right? This only time that they can buy it is for this event that you're going to do online through Patreon. If you do 50, that's $500
Yep. Yep.
right
Yep.
there. That's $500 real quick and fast. And it can be 15 minutes, it can be 20 minutes, half hour, full hour, whatever. You get to decide. That entrepreneur within you as the artist gets to decide how this is going to work. Whereas
Yep.
if you go the route of the music industry, the label's going to decide. The booking
Hmm.
agent's going to decide. The
Yep.
venue's going to decide. They're going to be making
Hmm.
all these different decisions that may not align with how comfortable you are as an artist getting out there and
Yep.
doing things.
Yep. Yep.
So,
That's very true. Very true. And I also think that like if like let's say you don't have a lot of fans like some people have, then you may have to run ads to people to find you and get them to certain people, certain audience that will pay for those things because sometimes we don't, that's why I said Eventbrite because like these are strangers are looking, and sometimes you might not have someone that, you might just pay, oh, I got a Patreon, but then who's coming? There's a lot of artists like that.
yeah,
So I think sometime when you run an ad, if you're running ads or if you're at a place where, you can tell somebody about it, then they can go on your Patreon and that's how you get some of the audience too. And I
yeah,
know it's crazy to say you gotta run an ad, but sometimes that's what the major labels do. Like I think one artist said that the label paid $250,000 just for her song to blow up on the radio. So not saying you gotta pay that much, but sometimes that marketing can get you what you need to so you can sustain and get the audience and stuff like that. So that's one thing I'll throw in is that that's something that people can consider if they don't have people that's readily available to pay to join.
yeah, exactly, exactly. One of the things
Yeah.
that was very intriguing for me with the intro that I gave you is this signature sound that you've created, this abstract soul. Can you
Yes.
explain to the audience just a little bit more about what that is and how you created that?
Abstract soul, I would say it's kind of like alternative soul, which is a genre to solve. But I said abstract because I feel like I didn't want to be placed in a box. I felt like, you get out there and you're like, okay, you're gonna be this or you're gonna be that. And I didn't want that. I was like, man, what if one day I just want to, I don't know, do an avant-garde like what I just did with Whiskey? What if I want to do one verse and then the chorus instead of four verses and the chorus? I don't know. I was
Yeah.
trying to break the rules, and I don't know if it was Michael Jackson or Prince. Well, it was Michael Jackson said before he died that he wanted to break the rules a little bit. He didn't want to, he wanted to do something different. And I totally agree with that. Like I felt I didn't want to be in that box when I realized I was being put in there, and so that's why I created Abstract Soul. So it'll be my way, my signature way of saying, well, you don't know what you're gonna get from me. I could sing an R&B one day, and the next day I'm singing avant-garde. It was just like whiskey on my mind. You don't even know which genre to put me in when you hear that song. And the same thing with like Player Hater was like one of those songs where it's like, okay, you kind of blend in with people. It's kind of like, I mean, it's my mom always telling me I sound different anyway, but that song I can play it safe. Then I can turn into a song like Chocolate Man, which was really eccentric. And then you turn into, Whiskey on My Mind, really eccentric. Then you got Champion, which is more the Beyonce style. So you don't know what you're gonna get from me. Whiskey's like this country weird blues type song. You're like, huh? you
Right.
know so and then my album Limitless is those songs are really out of the box. So all those songs are really avant-garde on the album. So before I even knew what avant-garde was. So Abstract Soul is just my little way of creating this doorway for artists like revolution. Like I want other artists to hopefully see me and be able to be them true selves because I'm not the only one out here. There's nothing new under the sun, and so there's other artists that's wants to do what I'm doing too, but maybe scared, or they're doing it and they can join the revolution because I just think that everything's made up. So if
Yeah.
I want to change up the music, then I want to change it up. If a paint like I don't understand because if a painter can do what he wants, why can't I do what I want? I don't want to follow rules. I understand, C sharp, this and that. I didn't do musicianship, and I mean I did take musicianship in high school, performed that. I wasn't
Yeah.
good at it. I didn't pay attention. But so I'm kind of by sound. I'm kind of like listening by sound. That's how I figure out how to mix and all this stuff. I might not know all the technical jargon with the music side. But
Right.
I mean, of course you know some, of course, but you're not like is it advanced as someone that you think you should be. And I realize it's okay because even if I did know musicianship and all this stuff, I still would be the same way. I still want to break the rules. So it didn't
Yeah.
matter anyway, says I'm still gonna break the rules. So that's what abstract soul is, this revolution. So whereas we can be true artists, not just a singer, but an artist where we're painting the canvas so we want to paint it and having a good time. Because what's the point of doing it if we can't have fun?
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Again, too,
Mhm.
I'm saying it is that internal self, that internal voice that you have that is always guiding you, telling you, red flag over here. No, we don't want to go in that direction. We want to move in this direction. And not
Mhm.
being confined to a box or allowing industries to put you in a box, but
Mhm.
being the true artist that you are and continuing to do so. I think that's a great place for us to be able to close out today. And with that, I always want to remind the audience at the end of each episode is to listen to your heart, but also
Mhm.
be kind to your mind.
Yes.